The stars were burning. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation window of the exploration ship Odyssey and watched the war tear through space. Bright flashes lit up the darkness as ships exploded in the distance. She had seen battles before, but nothing like this. "How many?" she asked her communications officer. 200 coalition ships destroyed in the last hour," Lieutenant Park replied, his voice shaking. "The Zarthek fleet is pushing forward. The coalition is falling back." Sarah gripped the metal rail until her knuckles turned white. For 30 years, the galaxy had been at war. The Zarthek Empire wanted to control everything. They were huge insect-like aliens with dark shells and sharp claws. They moved like a single mind, always attacking, always destroying. Against them stood the Galactic Coalition. Dozens of different alien species had joined together to fight. Bird-like avians with their quick ships, stone-skinned lithoids with their heavy armor, blue-scaled Aquarians with their underwater cities. All of them were losing. Earth watched from far away. Humans had only learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. They were new to space, new to meeting aliens, new to everything. Most other species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. "Captain," Park called out, "we're getting a distress signal." "Put it through," Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered to life. An avian commander appeared, his feathers burned and bloody. Behind him, smoke filled his ship's bridge. "This is Commander Scree of the Coalition vessel Wind. Dancer, we are abandoning ship. If anyone can hear this, please help our civilians. The Zarthek are using their death weapons. Our hulls are melting like ice in fire." The transmission cut to static. Sarah closed her eyes. She knew about the Zarthek bioweapons. They sprayed acid that could eat through any known metal. Watching ships dissolve while people screamed inside was something no one should see, but she had seen it many times. "Orders, Captain?" asked her first officer, Commander Torres. Sarah looked at her crew. 23 humans on a small exploration ship. They carried science equipment and basic shields. No weapons worth mentioning. No armor that could stop a real attack. "We pick up survivors," she said. "But Captain, Earth's orders are clear. We stay neutral. We don't get involved. We're not fighting. We're saving lives." The Odyssey moved toward the battle zone. Dead ships floated everywhere. Some were coalition vessels, their hulls eaten away by acid. Others were Zarthek ships, twisted metal that looked like giant dead bugs. They found a damaged coalition transport ship. 50 survivors crowded into the Odyssey's cargo bay. Men, women, and children from 5 different species. All of them had the same look in their eyes, fear and sadness mixed together. An old lithoid grabbed Sarah's arm with his stone hand. "You are human, yes? Why do you help us? Your people stay away from the war." "Because it's the right thing to do," Sarah replied. The lithoid stared at her for a long moment. "Your species is young. You still believe right and wrong matter, don't they? The Zarthek think only strength matters. They have been winning for 30 years. Maybe they are correct." Sarah helped the refugees get comfortable. She gave them food and water. She listened to their stories. A young avian girl had lost her parents when acid ate through their ship's hull. An Aquarian family had escaped from their underwater colony just before Zarthek ground forces arrived. "They don't just conquer," an injured coalition soldier told her. "They destroy everything. Cities, farms, schools. They leave nothing alive." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Because they can. Because fear makes other species surrender faster." The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks. Sarah spent time talking to the refugees. She learned about the war from people who had lived through it. The Zarthek Empire was huge. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their armies seemed endless. The coalition was tired. They had been fighting for 3 decades. Many species had already surrendered. Others were thinking about it. Hope was dying across the galaxy. When the Odyssey reached Earth's solar system, Sarah contacted the Terran Council. Earth's government met in Geneva, in the same building where humans had once tried to keep peace among themselves. "Request permission to land refugees at Luna Station," Sarah transmitted. "Granted," came the reply. "Report to Council chambers immediately upon arrival. Luna Station orbited Earth's moon. It was humanity's main spaceport for dealing with alien visitors." The refugees looked out the windows at Earth as they prepared to leave the ship. "Your world is beautiful," the old lithoid said. "Green and blue and white, like a jewel. It's home," Sarah replied. "Protect it," he warned. "The Zarthek will come here eventually. They always do." At the council chambers, Sarah faced 12 serious-looking humans. She had met some of them before. They were politicians, military officers, and scientists. They made the big decisions for humanity. "Report, Captain Chen," said Council President Williams. Sarah told them everything. The battles she had witnessed, the refugees she had saved, the bioweapons that dissolved ships like water, the fear in people's eyes when they talked about the Zarthek. "The coalition is losing," she finished. "They need help." Council President Williams leaned back in his chair. "Captain, humanity has 12 exploration ships, 37 colony worlds, and a population of 8 billion. The Zarthek Empire has 10,000 warships and controls 300 systems. What help could we possibly provide? We could try. And get humanity wiped out? Our job is to protect our own people." General Morrison, Earth's top military officer, spoke up. "Captain Chen raises valid points. The Zarthek are winning. Eventually, they will turn their attention to neutral systems, including ours." "Eventually is not today," Williams replied. "Humanity's policy remains unchanged. We stay neutral. We trade with both sides when possible. We avoid military involvement." Sarah felt anger building in her chest. "Sir, I've seen what the Zarthek do to civilians. Children dying while their parents watch. Entire species being wiped out. Tragic, but not our responsibility. Earth has enjoyed 50 years of peace since we reached the stars. I will not throw that away for a war we cannot win." The meeting ended. Sarah left feeling frustrated and angry. In the corridor, General Morrison caught up with her. "Walk with me, Captain," he said. They moved to a viewing window that looked out at Earth. The planet turned slowly below them, blue oceans and green continents clearly visible. "You think I'm wrong to support the Council's decision?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir, I do. You may be right. But consider this. If humanity joins the war and loses, Earth becomes another dead world. If we stay neutral, we might survive. And if the Zarthek win the war, what then?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "Then we hope they leave us alone." "That old lithoid on my ship said something. He said the Zarthek always come eventually. Maybe he's wrong." Sarah looked at Earth spinning below. Billions of people living, their lives in peace. They went to work, raised families, built homes. They had no idea how close the war was getting. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "If Earth was attacked, how would we defend ourselves?" Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We would fight with everything we have. Humans are good at fighting when we need to be. Good enough to beat the Zarthek? We would find out." Sarah returned to the Odyssey 2 days later. Her crew was ready for their next mission. More exploration, more mapping empty star systems, more staying away from the war. But as their ship left Earth's solar system, Sarah kept thinking about the refugees, the fear in their eyes, the way they had thanked her for saving them, and the warning from the old lithoid. The Zarthek always came eventually. She just hoped Earth would be ready when they did. 2 years passed like a bad dream. The war continued to spread across the galaxy. Every month brought news of another coalition defeat. The avian homeworld fell after a siege that lasted 6 months. The lithoid mining colonies were abandoned when Zarthek ground forces proved too strong to fight. Earth remained untouched. Human traders moved between star systems, selling food and medical supplies to both sides. It was profitable business, and the Terran Council liked making money while staying safe. Sarah Chen had been promoted to Commodore. She now commanded 3 exploration ships instead of 1. Her job was the same as before: map empty systems, avoid the war, stay neutral, but neutrality was getting harder to maintain. "Commodore," her communications officer called out. "We're receiving a distress signal from Proxima Centauri." Sarah's blood turned cold. Proxima Centauri was humanity's first colony outside the solar system. 50,000 people lived there in underground cities, mining rare metals from the rocky planet. "Put it through," she ordered. The main screen showed Dr. Marcus Webb, the colony administrator. He was a calm man in his 60s who had helped build Proxima Centauri from nothing. Now his face was pale with fear. "This is Dr. Webb to any Earth vessels in range. We have a situation here. A large alien fleet just arrived in our system. They're demanding our surrender." Sarah leaned forward. "Dr. Webb, this is Commodore Chen." "What species?" "Zarthek. A whole battle group. Hundreds of ships. Their commander wants to talk." "You're a neutral colony. Show them your papers. Earth's neutrality agreement should protect you." "I'm trying that. Stand by." The transmission switched to the colony's external communications. A massive Zarthek warship hung in space like a metal mountain. It was covered in weapons and armor plating that looked like insect shells. Dr. Webb's voice came through clearly. Zarthek Commander, this is Administrator Webb of Proxima Centauri Colony. We are a neutral human settlement. Earth has maintained neutrality throughout this conflict. We request safe passage under galactic law. The reply came in a voice like grinding metal. The translation system made it sound cold and mechanical. I am Warcast Commander Vexthul of the Subjugation Fleet. Your neutrality means nothing to us. Neutrality is weakness. Weakness deserves only death. Sarah felt her heart stop. Dr. Webb, evacuate immediately. Get everyone to the shelters. But it was too late. The Zarthek ships opened fire. Sarah watched in horror as green energy beams struck the planet's surface. The bioweapons began their terrible work. Buildings started to dissolve like sugar in rain. The underground cities that had taken decades to build melted away in minutes. Oh God, whispered her first officer. The worst part was the screaming. The colony's communication systems were still working. 50,000 voices cried out in terror and pain as the acid ate through their homes, their shelters, their bodies. A woman's voice cut through the noise. Please, someone help us! My children are trapped! The acid is coming through the walls! Man shouted, the medical center is gone! Everyone inside just dissolved! Children cried for their parents. Parents screamed for their children. The sounds of a human colony dying filled the bridge of Sarah's ship. And then, suddenly, silence. The Zarthek commander's voice returned, calm and satisfied. Let this be a lesson to all who think neutrality will save them. The Zarthek Empire spares no one. Sarah stared at the screen. Proxima Centauri was still there, but the surface was now covered in green mist. Nothing moved, nothing lived. 50,000 human beings had been murdered in less than an hour. Commodore, her communications officer said quietly. We're receiving transmissions from Earth. The attack was broadcast live across all human colonies. Sarah closed her eyes. Every human in space had just watched the same horror at the same moment. For the first time in their species' history, all of humanity had witnessed the same terrible event together. The response was immediate. Earth's communications networks exploded with angry voices. Colony governors demanded action. Military officers called for war. Citizens flooded the streets of every human city holding signs and shouting for revenge. But it was the children's voices that broke Sarah's heart. Human children on dozens of worlds had watched other human children die screaming. They asked their parents why no one had helped. They asked why the bad aliens were allowed to kill people. The parents had no good answers. Sarah ordered her ship toward Earth at maximum speed. The trip took 18 hours. During that time, emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels. The Terran Council was meeting in permanent session. Military commanders were being recalled from retirement. Colony defense forces were being activated for the first time since their creation. When Sarah reached Earth orbit, she found a changed world. Military ships that had been in storage for decades were being brought online. Weapons factories that had been shut down were starting up again. Earth was preparing for war. The council chambers were packed. Every seat was filled with angry representatives from human colonies. Military officers stood along the walls. The air was thick with tension and barely controlled rage. Council President Williams looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. His hands shook as he called for order. We are here to decide humanity's response to the attack on Proxima Centauri, he announced. Colonel Martinez from the Mars Defense Force stood up. With respect, Mr. President, there's nothing to decide. They murdered 50,000 civilians. Children. Families. We have to respond. And start a war we cannot win? Williams replied. The Zarthek Empire is vast. We are small. Governor Chen from Europa Colony slammed her hand on her desk. Then we die fighting. At least our children. We'll know we tried to protect them. Dead heroes protect no one, Williams said. General Morrison stepped forward. Sarah was surprised to see him. The old soldier had been quiet during the neutrality debates. Now his face was hard as stone. Mr. President, may I speak? Go ahead, General. I have spent my entire life studying war. I know what we're facing. The Zarthek Empire is powerful. Their technology is advanced. Their armies are huge. By every reasonable measure, we should lose. Williams nodded. Exactly my point. But they made one mistake. They attacked our children. They broadcast their crime across human space. They wanted to terrorize us into submission. Morrison paused and looked around the room. Instead, they have awakened something that has been sleeping. For 50 years, humanity has been peaceful. We have explored, traded, built homes among the stars. We have been good neighbors to other species. His voice grew harder. But we have not forgotten who we are. We are the children of warriors. We are the descendants of every human who ever fought to protect their family. The Zarthek think they know us. They think we are weak because we chose peace. Morrison smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. They are about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. The room was completely silent. Williams cleared his throat. General, are you recommending we declare war on the Zarthek Empire? I am recommending we show them what happens when you murder human children in front of their families. The vote was called. 12 council members, 12 hands raised in favor of war, 0 opposed. Humanity had chosen to fight. Outside the council chambers, Sarah watched news broadcasts from across human space. Colony militias were forming, civilian ships were being converted to carry weapons, factories were switching from making trade goods to making missiles. On Earth itself, something even more significant was happening. The planet's population was volunteering for military service in numbers that overwhelmed the recruitment centers. Young and old, men and women, people from every nation and every background. They all had the same look in their eyes, the same cold anger. The Zarthek had wanted to send a message by destroying Proxima Centauri. They had succeeded. The message was simple. Humanity was done being neutral. Now it was time for war. General James Morrison stood in his new office at Earth Military Command and studied the star charts on his wall. Red markers showed Zarthek-controlled systems. Blue markers showed what remained of the coalition. Yellow markers showed neutral territory. There were a lot more red markers than blue ones. Sir, his aide, Captain Brooks, entered with a data pad. The fleet recall is complete. Every human ship in the galaxy is returning to Earth. Morrison nodded. For 2 weeks, humanity had been pulling back from everywhere. Exploration ships, cargo vessels, passenger transports, mining platforms. Everything with a human crew was coming home. Other species thought humanity was retreating in fear. They were wrong. What about our trade agreements? Brooks asked. Cancelled. All of them. But sir, that will hurt our economy. Morrison turned from the star chart. Captain, we're not worried about making money anymore. We're preparing for total war. Brooks looked confused. Total war, sir? Complete commitment. Every resource, every person, every weapon pointed at a single goal. The destruction of our enemy. Most species in the galaxy didn't understand total war. They fought with honor. They followed rules. They tried to minimize damage to civilians and infrastructure. War was a tool of politics, not an end in itself. Humans were different. Morrison walked to his desk and activated a secure communication channel. This is Morrison. Begin Project Damocles. Across human space, locked facilities began opening for C. The first time in decades. Weapons that had been stored since Earth's last global war were brought out and examined. Nuclear missiles, kinetic bombardment systems, chemical weapons, biological weapons. The other species of the galaxy had moved beyond such crude tools. They used energy weapons and exotic matter. They fought clean wars with minimal suffering. Humans still remembered how to fight dirty. Sir, Brooks said carefully, some of these weapons are banned by galactic law. We never signed those treaties. Earth maintained the right to defend itself, with any means necessary. But the other coalition species will object. Morrison smiled coldly. Let them. They've been losing for 30 years following their rules. Time to try our way. The first human response came 1 week later. A small fleet of modified cargo ships approached a Zarthek supply depot in the Vega system. The depot was lightly defended. It supplied Zarthek forces attacking coalition worlds 3 systems away. The human ships were commanded by Commodore Sarah Chen. She had volunteered to lead the first strike mission. Her ships carried a mix of nuclear missiles and kinetic projectiles, accelerated to near light speed. This is Commodore Chen to all ships, she transmitted. Remember, we're not just attacking a depot. We're sending a message. Earth is no longer neutral. The Zarthek defenders responded as expected. They sent a warning, then opened fire when the human ships didn't retreat. But Sarah had studied every recording of Zarthek combat tactics for 2 years. She knew how they fought. The Zarthek relied on their bioweapons. Ships that got close were dissolved by acid sprays. Ships that stayed far away were hunted down by fast attack craft. Sarah's fleet did neither. They launched their missiles from extreme range, then immediately jumped to faster-than-light speed. By the time the Zarthek realized what was happening, nuclear fire was already racing toward their depot. The explosions could be seen from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, the Zarthek supply depot was gone, completely vaporized. Nothing remained but radioactive dust. The attack was tactically successful but strategically unimportant. The Zarthek Empire had thousands of such depots. Losing one meant nothing. But then the humans did something unexpected. Sarah's fleet didn't retreat. Instead, they began hunting the specific Zarthek unit that had destroyed Proxima Centauri. War cast Commander Vex Thul and his subjugation fleet. This had never happened before. In galactic warfare, you attacked military targets. You didn't hunt down individual commanders for revenge. Sarah tracked Vex Thul's fleet across 3 star systems. She used human intelligence networks, coalition refugees, and captured Zarthek communications. It took 2 months, but she found him. The final battle took place in the asteroid belt around Kepler 186. Vex Thul's fleet was larger and more heavily armed. By all military logic, the humans should have retreated. Instead, Sarah sent a message on an open channel that every ship in the system could hear. Warcast Commander Vex Thul, this is Commodore Sarah Chen of the Earth Fleet. You murdered 50,000 civilians at Proxima Centauri. You killed children in front of their parents. You thought this would make humanity afraid. She paused, letting the words sink in. You were wrong. It made us angry. The battle lasted 6 hours. The humans used the asteroids as cover, playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek. They used their smaller size and faster ships to strike and run. They used nuclear mines hidden in asteroid hollows. But most importantly, they used something the Zarthek had never faced before. Pure, focused hatred. When the fighting ended, Vex Thul's ship was the only Zarthek vessel still intact. Its weapons were destroyed. Its engines were dead. Its hull was cracked but not broken. Sarah's ship, the Retribution, was also damaged. Life support was failing. The engine core was about to explode. Sarah activated her ship's communications one last time. Vex Thul, can you hear me? The Zarthek commander's voice came back, filled with pain and confusion. I hear you, human. You have defeated me. Take your victory. This isn't about victory. This is about justice. Sarah looked at the picture she kept on her command console. 50 children from Proxima Centauri, smiling at the camera during a school assembly, all dead now. This is for the children, she said. Then she rammed her ship into Vex Thul's at near light speed. The explosion lit up the entire star system. News of the battle spread across the galaxy in hours. Humanity had done something unthinkable. They had hunted down and executed a specific enemy commander for revenge. They had sacrificed their own lives to make sure he died. Other species were horrified. The coalition leadership sent formal protests. Galactic news agencies called it barbaric. The Zarthek reaction was different. For the first time in their history, they felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. On Earth, the reaction was immediate celebration. Sarah Chen became a hero. Children sang songs about her sacrifice. Poets wrote verses about her final words. But General Morrison wasn't celebrating. He was planning. Project Damocles is fully operational, he told the Terran Council. We have recalled all human assets. We have studied every piece of data about Zarthek technology and tactics. We have prepared for total war. What do you need from us? Asked President Williams. Everything. Every ship, every weapon, every person. The Zarthek Empire is vast, but they have one weakness. They don't understand humans. Explain. Morrison brought up a holographic display showing human space. Red arrows indicated Zarthek fleet movements. They think we're another coalition species. They expect us to fight with honor, follow rules, minimize casualties. They expect us to fight a civilized war. He smiled that cold smile again. We're going to show them that humans have never fought a civilized war in their entire history. We're going to introduce them to concepts they've never encountered. Concepts like total war, unrestricted warfare, and mutually assured destruction. President Williams looked worried. General, are we talking about genocide? We're talking about survival. The Zarthek started this fight when they murdered our children. Now we're going to finish it. Morrison turned back to the star chart. The red markers showing Zarthek territory seemed to glow in the light. For 30 years, the galaxy has fought the Zarthek Empire with one hand tied behind their back. They've been civilized, honorable, restrained. He picked up a marker and placed it at Earth's location. Humanity is about to join this war, and we're going to fight with both hands. No rules and no mercy. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. The galaxy watched in shock as humanity revealed its true face. The first sign came at the Battle of Ross 128. A coalition fleet was trapped by superior Zarthek forces. Defeat seemed certain. Then the human reinforcements arrived. Admiral Morrison commanded the relief fleet personally. Instead of engaging the Zarthek ships directly, he did something unprecedented. He targeted the star itself. Modified human missiles struck the star's surface in precise locations. The impacts triggered massive solar flares that swept across the entire system. The electromagnetic pulses disabled every ship in the battle zone. But humans had prepared for this. Their ships were hardened against electromagnetic interference. The Zarthek bioorganic vessels were not. When the solar storm passed, the Zarthek fleet floated dead in space. The coalition ships were damaged but operational. Morrison's forces moved in and destroyed the helpless Zarthek vessels one by one. "How did you know that would work?" asked Admiral Kretak of the coalition forces. Morrison's answer became famous across the galaxy. "Humans have been using stars as weapons since we learned to make fire. We just scaled up." The victory at Ross 128 was only the beginning. At Tau Ceti, human forces used biological warfare. They released modified viruses that attacked the organic components of Zarthek ships. The viruses were based on samples recovered from Proxima Centauri, reverse-engineered from the Zarthek's own bioweapons. The Zarthek fleet found their ships literally eating themselves. Hull plating dissolved. Weapon systems failed. Life support broke down. Entire vessels died like diseased animals. At Wolf 359, humans employed psychological warfare. They broadcast continuous transmissions showing the destruction of Proxima Centauri. The images were sent on frequencies that penetrated Zarthek communication systems. Zarthek ground forces on occupied worlds saw the footage and began to understand what they faced. Human civilians being dissolved alive, children screaming for their parents. The methodical extermination of an entire colony. Uprisings began on 17 different worlds as local populations realized that surrender to the Zarthek meant death. Other species watched these tactics with growing horror. The coalition leadership sent repeated messages to Earth demanding explanations. "These methods violate every convention of civilized warfare," protested Ambassador Veltar of the Aquarian Empire. "Using biological weapons, targeting civilian infrastructure, psychological manipulation of enemy forces, this is barbaric." General Morrison attended the emergency coalition meeting via hologram. His response was calm and matter-of-fact. "Ambassador, with respect, your civilized warfare has been losing for 30 years. You followed rules while the Zarthek murdered billions. Perhaps it's time to try a different approach. But there are limits, lines that should not be crossed." The Zarthek crossed every line when they destroyed Proxima Centauri. Now we're showing them what war looks like when the rules no longer apply. And what happens after the war? What kind of galaxy will we have if everyone adopts these methods? Morrison's image flickered as the transmission quality fluctuated. "That's a problem for after we win. Right now, the only question is whether we win at all." The coalition leadership was divided. Some species supported the human approach, desperate for any advantage. Others threatened to withdraw from the alliance if humanity continued using uncivilized tactics. Morrison didn't care. Earth's war goals were simple: the complete destruction of the Zarthek Empire. Nothing else mattered. The Battle of Kepler 442 became the turning point of the war. It was the same system where Sarah Chen had first witnessed a coalition defeat 3 years earlier. Now it would see a very different kind of battle. The Zarthek assembled their largest fleet in history. 2,000 ships commanded by High Warcast Zarkul himself. Their goal was to punch through coalition lines and attack Earth directly. The coalition mustered every available ship to stop them. 300 vessels from a dozen different species. They were outnumbered almost 7 to 1. But the coalition fleet was now under human tactical command. Morrison's strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of fighting a traditional battle, he turned the entire star system into a weapon. Human engineering teams had been working in the Kepler 442 system for months. They had placed gravity mines throughout the asteroid belt. They had seeded the outer planets with nuclear devices. They had even modified the system's largest moon to serve as a kinetic projectile. When the Zarthek fleet entered the system, Morrison activated everything at once. Gravity mines created artificial black holes that tore Zarthek ships apart. Nuclear explosions on the outer planets sent clouds of radioactive debris racing through space. The modified moon accelerated. By hidden engines, smashed through the Zarthek formation like a massive bullet. The Zarthek fleet tried to retreat, but Morrison had anticipated this. Human ships waited at every jump point, armed with weapons that could prevent faster-than-light travel. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, Less than 50 Zarthek ships escaped. High War cast Zarkul was dead, his flagship split in half by the impact of the weaponized moon. But the most important result was psychological. The Zarthek Empire had lost its aura of invincibility. Across the galaxy, species that had been neutral or even allied with the Zarthek began switching sides. More importantly, humanity had shown the galaxy something new, their capacity for adaptation and learning. Every Zarthek weapon was studied and improved. Every tactic was analyzed and countered. Human intelligence services infiltrated Zarthek command structures. Human scientists reverse-engineered Zarthek technology and made it better. The transformation was remarkable. In just 18 months, humanity went from galactic newcomers to the most feared military force in known space. "How do they learn so fast?" asked Coalition Science Officer Talvek after observing human research teams. Dr. Elizabeth Grant, Earth's chief xenobiologist, provided the answer. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've had to adapt quickly or die. It's built into our nature. But most species evolve past such violent tendencies. Maybe that's why they lose wars. The Zarthek Empire began to show signs of strain. Their perfect unity started to crack. Some hive worlds began questioning orders from the central command. Others started negotiating secret surrenders. The humans exploited every crack they found. They spread disinformation that turned Zarthek fleets against each other. They supported rebellion movements on conquered worlds. They assassinated key commanders and made it look like internal political violence. By the end of the second year, the Zarthek Empire was collapsing from within as much as from external attack. "Status report," Morrison requested during a staff meeting. 60% of Zarthek territory is now in revolt," reported Colonel Martinez. "Their central fleet is reduced to less than 3,000 ships. Coalition forces are advancing on 17 fronts. And their home system? Still heavily defended, but isolated. We estimate they have 500 ships guarding Zarthek Prime." Morrison studied the tactical display. The path to the Zarthek homeworld was finally open. "Begin Operation Endgame," he ordered. "Signal all Coalition fleets. We're going to finish this war." Outside the command center, news broadcasts carried the announcement across human space. Earth's children, who had grown up watching alien monsters murder their people, finally heard words they had been waiting for. The war was almost over. Soon there would be justice for Proxima Centauri. Soon the galaxy would be safe from the Zarthek Empire, and everyone would know what happened when you made it personal with humanity. The final fleet was the largest in galactic history. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Nemesis and watched the assembled armada. 5,000 ships from 47 different species surrounded the massive human vessel. Coalition forces that had been losing for 30 years now followed human tactical command, but it was the human contribution that made other species nervous. Behind the main fleet came Earth's secret weapons. Planet crackers that could shatter worlds. Stellar torpedoes that could make stars explode. Weapons that other species thought were impossible, or at least immoral. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Zarthek Prime." Morrison nodded. "Put it through." The main screen filled with an image that chilled the blood. The Zarthek Emperor, hive-mind Zarthul, was the size of a building. His insect body was covered in metallic armor. Hundreds of smaller Zarthek clustered around him like servants. When he spoke, his voice echoed with the sounds of a billion minds speaking as one. "I am Zarthul, master of the Eternal Empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds. You have come far from your small planet, humans, but you cannot win. Zarthek Prime is defended by the greatest fleet ever assembled. Turn back now, and you may live." Morrison stepped forward so the Emperor could see him clearly. "I am Admiral James Morrison of Earth. I speak for humanity and our coalition allies. We're here because you made a mistake 3 years ago." "Mistake?" The Emperor's voice carried confusion. "What mistake?" "You attacked Proxima Centauri. You murdered 50,000 civilians, children, families, people who had done nothing to you. One small colony among billions. Why do you care so much about such a tiny loss?" Morrison's voice became hard as steel. "Because they were ours." The Emperor paused. Around him, the smaller Zarthek chittered nervously. "You cannot understand," Zarthul finally said. "We are a hive mind. When one of us dies, the others continue. Individual loss means nothing. We cannot comprehend why you rage over a few thousand individuals. That's why you're going to lose." "Explain." Morrison gestured to the fleet around him. "Every ship here represents someone who chose to fight. Not because they were forced to, but because they decided your empire needed to end. That's the difference between us and you. Sentiment makes you weak. No. Sentiment makes us unstoppable. Morrison ended the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Begin the attack. The Battle of Zarthek Prime lasted 6 hours and changed the galaxy forever. The Zarthek defense was everything they had promised. Orbital platforms bristling with bioweapons. Automated defense networks that could target thousands of ships simultaneously. The largest fleet in their empire's history. It wasn't enough. Humanity had spent 3 years studying Zarthek tactics. They knew every weakness, every pattern, every predictable response. More importantly, they had taught these lessons to their coalition allies. The battle began with a coordinated assault on the orbital defenses. Coalition ships attacked from multiple directions, while human vessels used their stellar torpedoes to destabilize the system's star. The Zarthek fleet responded exactly as Morrison had predicted. They focused on the largest threats, leaving gaps in their formation. Human intelligence had prepared for this. Small human ships, disguised as debris, activated in the middle of the Zarthek formation. They carried nuclear mines that had been floating in space for months, waiting for this moment. The explosions tore through the heart of the Zarthek fleet. But the real breakthrough came when human scientists activated their secret weapon. For 2 years, they had been studying captured Zarthek biotechnology. They had learned how the hive mind worked. The quantum virus they released attacked the psychic network that connected all Zarthek to their emperor. Suddenly, for the first time in their species' history, individual Zarthek found themselves alone in their own minds. The effect was devastating. Zarthek ships began flying in random directions, weapons fired at their own allies. The perfect coordination that had made them unstoppable dissolved into chaos. Emperor Zarthul's final transmission came as coalition forces surrounded his palace. "Impossible," he broadcast. "The hive mind cannot be broken. We are eternal. We are one." Morrison's reply was cold and final. "You were one. Now you're just afraid." The surrender came 12 hours later. But Morrison wasn't satisfied with simple surrender. The Zarthek Empire had committed genocide across hundreds of worlds. They had murdered civilians for sport. They had shown no mercy to anyone. Humanity would show them the same consideration they had shown to others. "All Zarthek military assets will be destroyed," Morrison announced to the galaxy. "All weapons will be melted down. All warships will be scrapped. The Zarthek species will be relocated to reservation worlds where they can live in peace, but never threaten anyone again." Other coalition species protested. "This is too harsh," argued Ambassador Veltar. "They've surrendered. The war is over." "The war is over when I say it's over," Morrison replied. "And I say it's over when every weapon that killed human children has been destroyed." The dismantling of the Zarthek Empire took 2 years. Human oversight teams made sure every military installation was demolished. Every warship was reduced to scrap metal. Every bioweapon laboratory was sterilized. Former Zarthek warriors were given a choice: accept neural modifications that would prevent them from feeling the urge to fight, or spend their lives in isolation on prison worlds. Most chose the modifications. The galaxy watched this process with growing unease. Humanity's thoroughness frightened even their allies. No detail was overlooked. No potential threat was ignored. "They're being too careful," Admiral Kretak confided to his staff. "The humans act like they expect the Zarthek to rebuild their empire in secret." "Maybe they do," his aide replied. "Humans seem to plan for every possible threat." "That's what worries me." The final ceremony took place at Proxima Centauri. The colony had been rebuilt, but a memorial now stood where the original settlement had died. 50,000 names were carved into black stone that would last forever. Morrison stood before the memorial with representatives from every human colony. Behind them, coalition leaders from dozens of species watched in respectful silence. 3 years ago, the Zarthek Empire attacked this place, Morrison said. They thought they were sending a message about the price of neutrality. They thought they were showing the galaxy that no one could stand against them. He paused and looked at the names on the memorial wall. They were wrong. They didn't send a message about neutrality. They sent a message about humanity. They showed the galaxy what happens when you attack our children. Morrison turned to face the assembled crowd. "The Zarthek Empire is gone. Their military is destroyed. Their leaders are imprisoned. Their worlds are under coalition oversight. They will never threaten anyone again." A young girl from the rebuilt colony stepped forward. She was one of the few survivors of the original attack, saved because she had been visiting Earth when the Zarthek struck. "Admiral Morrison," she said in a clear voice. "My parents died here. My little brother died here. All my friends died here. Did we win?" Morrison knelt down so he could look the girl in the eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. We won. And we made sure that what happened to your family will never happen to anyone else's family." The girl nodded solemnly. "Good. My parents would be happy." As the ceremony ended, coalition leaders began to disperse, but many lingered to speak with human representatives. The conversation topics were similar across all the groups. "What are humanity's plans now?" asked Ambassador Veltar. "We're going home," replied Earth's foreign minister. "We're going to rebuild our colonies, explore new worlds, and get back to the business of being peaceful. And if another threat emerges, the foreign minister's answer became famous across the galaxy. "Then whoever threatens human children will learn the same lesson the Zarthek learned. We prefer peace, but we're very good at war." In the years that followed, the galaxy settled into a new pattern. Trade resumed, exploration expanded, new colonies were founded. But things were different now. When disputes arose between species, they were settled quickly through negotiation. No one wanted to risk escalating to violence. The example of the Zarthek Empire served as a permanent reminder of what happened to those who chose war over peace. Humanity maintained small but advanced fleets throughout their territory. They were nominally for exploration and defense, but everyone knew their real purpose. They were a warning. The memorial at Proxima Centauri became a pilgrimage site. Species from across the galaxy came to see the names of the humans who had died. More importantly, they came to read the inscription at the base of the memorial. It was written in every galactic language. They thought we were weak because we sought peace. They learned the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. The message was clear to everyone who read it. Humanity had stayed out of the galactic war until their enemies made it personal. The galaxy would never make that mistake again.